How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the UKnowAdamTsang Podcast, where you get to know a little bit more about people, passions, and all things business. You know what I'm saying? Today, I'm sitting across from Brandon Jones from Watersedge Design in Statesboro, Georgia. Brandon, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
It's going well. I'm super excited to speak with you today. I think that your story is a very fascinating one, and I think it's something that a lot of people have gone through or are going through right now. But before we get there, can you tell me a little bit about what Watersedge Design does?
So Watersedge Design Company is a design company that we focus mainly on architectural. It started out kind of residential, but we also hit on some of the concepts for commercial design as well. We also look at interior design and several other aspects from the architectural standpoint.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, obviously the first question that, I have is, what is the background to get you to the point?
Oh, wow. Really a love for design, a love for art, innovative thinking, creative thinking, all that good stuff. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I just knew that that's what interested me. And so I looked at several different aspects through school, and drafting really stuck out.
Got you.
And so I started college. I started the whole exactly what your parents want you to do.
Sure. What did they want you to do?
Well, I mean, just the whole college experience.
Got you.
Something like college. Something sustainable, right? And so I started that, and it was just not really what I wanted, and I couldn't really grasp yet. It was more of your core classes and things that really did not catch my attention. It was really light in the creativity side. So I took a break, just a short break, and stepped out and went to tech school. And I knew I liked drafting. I didn't know all the avenues that drafting could lead to.
And what was it about drafting that really kind of like was able to capture your attention, unlike anything else out there? Because I'm sure you've tried multiple different things, right? There were probably some things that you wanted to maybe had interest in, but drafting stood out. I mean, what was it?
I think it was the creativity mixed with the technical side. So there was a standard, and it was I create something or a creative design for something, and it was able to be constructed, built, and I could see it in real life come together. And I also started to see the aspects of architecture through the tech school, and saw that side of it. And I could tell that there was a interest in me to help others, and creating something that someone else wanted, basically taking their vision, putting it on paper to a sheet of instructions of how you can create your vision, make it come to life.
Got you. And that was super intriguing to you.
It's just intriguing.
Yeah.
It kind of mixed the art with the technical.
Yeah. So was there an art background there? Like, was there like kind of like a fascination with creativity of
my parents just always instilled creativity, and I grew up. I had a really big imagination, and my parents supported that imagination, whether it was playing or interacting with others. The creative side always was encouraged. Yeah. And I think it's something that's not really encouraged as much now, and it should be. It's let's fulfill, and I'm guilty myself. Sure. Let's fulfill our kids with here's something to play with instead of here's a box. Come up with something, create something. What the box can be anything you want it to be.
That's right. So we've kind of like landed on this interesting part where like drafting is what it is.
Right.
And so how did you get into starting your company? How did that come to be?
So I'll catch up real quick. It was, I went to tech school, jumped back into college after that. I had experiences with landscape architecture. I had experiences with architecture, and I ended up back in college for engineering technology. I ended up getting a job offer with a local school to teach architectural drafting.
What was that ever in the cards, like originally, or
not really? I mean, I toyed with the idea. One of my mentors early on was an engineering technology teacher in high school. Yeah, and I think besides her personality and the interest she showed in my creativity, I think it seemed like a sustainable job, and it also there was lots of innovative toys involved.
Sure.
And so I got several aspects of that creative side that you could play with every day and have a sustainable job.
That's right.
And you were also encouraging that creativity in the young minds that, again, I said kind of you don't really, I think it needs to be more of that. There needs to be a lot more of encouraging that creative thinking.
So immediately you started teaching after you finished school. And then was Watersedge always kind of like in the background, kind of like there, or
a little bit. A childhood friend of mine and I kind of created Watersedge out of, there was this little creek, and it was beside basically a clubhouse as a kid, you know, and so we started this business.
Yep.
And it was us being creative.
Yeah.
Kind of designing stuff here and there. We landed a few little gigs, but more it was just the mindset of let's do something different. And it never really went anywhere from that standpoint, but it influenced me to continue on. And it was Watersedge was turned into a side hustle. I ended up with some pretty decent little contracts.
Yeah.
And every contract I ended up with, especially on the contractor side, the plans were not, I didn't really get to explore a lot of creativity. However, the contractors were very encouraging on me advancing. And then obviously working at the school required me to stay kind of on top of my game of the technology, what's trending style-wise and all that good stuff. So it was always there, but I don't think I ever, even though it seemed like a dream to do it full time.
So you were doing both at the same time.
I was.
Like, so, you know, kind of like walk me through that. Was it hard kind of like balancing, you know, this side hustle plus your main job? And this is, I think, where it gets interesting for maybe some of the viewers, right? Because, you know, everybody is so fascinated with this concept of being an entrepreneur, being a businessman, of doing something that they love doing, right? For like,
sure.
Because it doesn't feel like work at times.
Absolutely.
And so, like, you know, how did you enjoy your job? At school.
I did. There was aspects of it I enjoyed. I'm not a big routine person, or I don't like micromanaging, and jobs like that seem to
lend itself to that.
Yeah, and so I think that it was a creative outlet.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy doing both at one time.
Yeah.
It kept me kind of balanced. The teaching job was my secure job. It supported my family because that was the biggest fear.
That's right.
In stepping out and just doing that, because I had this comfortable job that was the comfort factor is a big part of it.
Yes.
But the side hustle allowed me to explore that creative side and keep me sane while I was doing something I wasn't 100% into. And but the biggest fear was kind of how am I going to support my family if the economy's crazy, and it changes constantly, and so creating a secure job for myself to support family and move forward in a comfortable fashion and secure fashion.
So a lot of times, you know, there are people out there that have a full-time job.
Right.
How are you able to find the energy to continue to work on this side hustle? Even, you know, you've been drained throughout the day. Like what does that look like?
So I think the passion for me was what kept me going. It was draining at times for sure. And I was trying not to work on it. You know, as soon as I get home, my kids are wanting to play.
Yeah.
You know, there's dinner to be cooked, all that, you know, your daily routine for your family, that didn't change.
Yeah.
And so I am sitting down at night when everyone else goes to bed to really get started designing into the wee hours of the morning, and then get up the next morning and start it all over.
What did that look like? Like, so what time would you start? Like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock?
8:30, 9 o'clock.
And then you would design until?
At 12, 2.
Wow.
Wherever my deadline took me, I was always, that was one thing I think that really kind of put me in a secure spot is I stuck to my deadlines, whether it was draining or enjoyable, or it took an extra cup of coffee at 12 o'clock at night. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that really, that got me through, but the passion for the design and knowing that releasing that creativity kind of was the balance that I needed.
Got it.
So even though it was draining, it kept me sane at the same time.
Absolutely. So, during this time, you've kind of like working both jobs. You're kind of like, doing some small contracts here and there. Take me back to the moment that you made the decision to that path is going to cross, right? Like, what was it? Was there just too much work that was going on? Was there, like, what was the specific reason for you to say, okay, I'm going to do this full time now?
Right. Again, it had been on my mind.
Yeah.
And the security's what kept me.
Yeah.
Right. That was the prevention.
Yeah.
However, during the pandemic, when everything kind of shut down, we were teaching from home.
Yep.
So, I mean, there was video conferences and things like that. We had plenty to do.
Yeah.
It was. I was definitely not a fan of working from home for the teaching side. I liked seeing face to face.
Sure.
But it allowed me to now kind of reverse. I was sitting down at night and doing curriculum, writing lessons and things like that for my students. And during the day, the calls were increasing.
Really?
Everyone's sitting at home.
Yes.
Let's staycations. Kind of let's recreate our renovations. Let's create our own space here. We're not going anywhere.
Oh.
And so business really climbed. And it was different because people would send me pictures. I wasn't going to their house because no one wanted you in their house.
Sure.
So, but it allowed me to spend a little extra time on Watersedge.
Yeah.
And so business increased. The type of business kind of created itself. Very custom work and word of mouth. Word of mouth.
Yeah.
One would call, they were calling friends, telling each other, hey, I'm working on this. What are you working on? And they would just call.
Uh-huh.
And so we started this, we kind of redirected our brand, our mission and everything to this very custom design work.
Yeah.
And that's what we love because it's very intentional to each client.
Yes.
And what what their daily life looks like.
So do you think, this is a hypothetical question, obviously we're kind of like going into a space, but if the pandemic did not happen, do you think Watersedge would be here today?
Maybe. My mentality was changing at the same time.
Gotcha.
It was kind of adapting, and I was getting a little more adventuresome.
Gotcha.
And the business was increasing anyway, a little bit. That just really, I think it sped the process up.
Sure.
But creating Watersedge is, I think it was
always in
coming.
the books.
It was coming. I just didn't know when or where I was going to feel comfortable jumping into that.
Uh-huh. Do you recall any moment in there where you felt like, hey, like this is uncomfortable? Because obviously, like job security is a huge part of it, right? A lot of people don't make that leap because it's like, oh my goodness, like, well, I have to figure it. Like now, I'm getting a steady paycheck. And you have summers, right? Because
absolutely, we don't have summers anymore.
Right, as a teacher, you have that piece.
Absolutely.
But then now it's like you're moving to something where like you have to go out and secure that business.
Right.
Did you feel nervous? What was that like kind of like feeling? And did you have to talk to the family about it? Like what kind of
there were many dinner conversations based around what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But my wife has always been extremely supportive of what we do. Now, she was a little hesitant when it was stepping out completely into this. I've had great family support.
That's awesome.
Even I think what really drove it home was the school I was working for. Like I had a lot of support when it was brought up. All right, here's your contract. Yeah. And I'm looking at it going, what am I going to do?
Sure.
Which was a big moment.
Yeah. And
then I asked for an extension. Like I'm not sure if I want to sign yet.
Sure.
And so I started explaining to them kind of what I was thinking. They knew it was a side hustle. They knew what I was doing. Yeah. I mean, I was teaching the same stuff. I think they liked that because I was bringing real life projects into the school.
Sure.
But once I started talking about it, I think that was a key element. Talking out loud about it almost made it real.
Yeah.
And I got tons of support from the people I was working with. Not only working with, but the ones I was working for.
Sure.
And all the way to the top of the school system, they were intrigued with me kind of stepping out.
Yeah.
And that was another comfort factor there was me walking away from this group of people that become, work family. I'd worked with them for 14 years. Yeah. And now I'm stepping out doing something different. I'm walking away from those friends, colleagues. But once the support started rolling in, And I was getting it from clients. I was getting it from the school system, family, friends. A really good friend of mine, he believed in me from the beginning. He was just like, he pushed me. He was very motivating the whole time. And so I think the support
really drove it home
and brought me where I'm at now.
During the 14 years that you were teaching, was Watersedge like? I mean, everybody knew about Watersedge at that point,
right?
But it had always been on the back burner, and then all of a sudden, like you make the decision, and then you feel this overwhelming support to say, "Hey, this is what you should be doing."
Right.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and even the contractors and stuff. Like I explained to them, my fear of doing this.
Sure.
And so I think a lot of them really were intentional on making sure I had business to start with. And as soon as that I would say 9 to 5, but 8 to 3 was done, it was I was able to work so much more because my fear was I'm doing this at night. I'm doing this for 3 or 4 hours a night. Am I going to be busy all day long every day? Am I going to have the business to bring me through it? And it just started happening.
And take me to this point right now. How is business?
Business is wonderful.
Yeah.
It's busy in a good way. Very creative jobs.
Yep.
The economy is the scariest part. but the designs, the thoughts, the clients are there. The contractors are there, and they've brought us here. And we've added in. We have an interior designer now. My draftsman, he's been with me. He was a former student of mine.
Love that.
He's been with me since before I quit school. I think he was a big advocate and a big supporter, and his workload really brought us through and brought me to this point as well.
Got you.
The addition of the interior designer was great. We've picked up tons of interior business, which was not really part of the original plan, and that's just another element of creativity we get to explore.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You said something in there that kind of like stuck out to me.
Okay.
You said that the contractors like supported you.
Yeah.
How does the contractor work with your team?
So it's approached with different projects in different manners. A lot of times clients call us, and a lot of times the contractor kind of refers a client to us to say, hey, make contact with Watersedge, get the ball rolling. Obviously, they're extremely busy right now too. So we work with them on two sides. We do a lot of, they bring us direct work. We'll create a design for them. They work with the client, or they'll send the client to us. We work with the client. But basically, once that project is kind of underway, they take it, review it. They give us feedback. They give the client feedback. I really like it when a contractor is involved in a project early on, because we get feedback from an economical standpoint based on the client's budget, any boundaries that we may not recognize from the construction side. We're very in tune with the contractors and make sure that we use them as a learning tool.
Yep.
Like they're working with their hands, they're on the project. They're looking at a totally different side of it than we are.
That's right.
And so we want to make sure there's a good balance with our designs and what we're asking them to create.
Yeah. So, there's a ton of design firms out there.
Right.
What kind of like sets Watersedge apart from the competition, do you think?
I think Watersedge, our main goal is that focus on the client, like designing. And I'm sure there's plenty of other design companies that kind of focus too, but we really focus on their day-to-day operations, what their kids do, what they do, what what do they do for a living, what's their hobbies. Do they like cooking when they come home? They like grilling on the patio. So we really look at every aspect of their life that they want to share with us and try to put that personality into their home.
Wow.
So we don't want to just build or create a house. That's easy.
Yep.
But creating a home for that individual to come home to every day, to spend their summers with their kids there, for their kids to grow up, for their kids to come back home to, and their memories as a child growing up in that home. I think that's kind of where we place our main focus.
Yeah. So give me like kind of like a success story of like something that you can recall that, has been one of those stories where you're like, oh my goodness, like this is why I did what I did.
Oh, there's several of them. Trying to recall one right off. the one that comes to mind now is designing with intention, and the home hasn't been built yet.
Okay.
So it's weird to say it's already a success story, but
sure.
But the kind of to see their expression on what we came up with.
Yeah.
And it was one that I was really nervous about too. I'm not sure why I was nervous about it. We do this every day. We have notes. We have, their likes, dislikes, all that good stuff.
Sure.
There wasn't a lot of style brought to the table.
Mm.
And it was, hey, we like this and this and this and this. And so it was kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But they have one child.
Okay.
And they were very interested in the child space and the home space for the family. And we created this little library nook. That doesn't sound like much, but it's like this hub. And it's just an entertainment space for the child that we can see kind of transforming into like a future library, things of that nature. It's just this little nook. And I don't know why it stood out so much.
Sure.
I'll be honest. I think their expression's what made it stand out. They were really excited about it.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds very simple. We've come up with some pretty cool designs in the past that I was really proud of, but their expression when they saw it was just like, this is exactly what we do. This is why we do it. And if I've always felt if we don't challenge their ideas a little bit, we're not really doing our job, because otherwise they could just design their own own space. So I want to bring them a little out of their comfort zone and come up with something each time that makes them second guess it.
Yep.
And look at it, have to take a second look at it to make sure they like it. But then once they start embedding in their head, like this is good, this is cool,
I love that. If there's a word of advice, so we talked a lot about kind of like making that leap and going into a business, turning that side hustle into kind of like the main source of revenue or whatever it is. If there was a word of advice that you would have to somebody that's in that similar boat right now, what do you think it would be?
So one thing that really kind of drove home, I didn't really bring this up, but I consider myself employable.
Okay.
And so my mindset, I'll do anything to support my family.
Yeah.
I'll take on any job or task. I think if you're starting with a side hustle, then you already have a little bit of foundation started.
Yep.
Go in and take the leap. Like there's plenty of jobs that are available.
Yep.
If you consider yourself employable, you're responsible and things like that, then if you fail, it's a learning experience. I don't know, man.
Don't be scared of failing.
Yeah, don't be scared of failing. And there's ways to recoup.
Yeah.
And I won't say everything we've done has been completely successful. Obviously I want to kind of focus on that and highlight that. But,
sure.
But we learn every single day from what we do, and we from efficiency to design tactics, all that good stuff. But it's I don't know. Once I just jump into it. Yeah. Do it. Try it out.
That job will always be there.
There's always a job there,
right?
And there's plenty of careers out there.
That's right.
But if you're that passionate about it and you feel it in your gut, like go for it. Go for it. I think the support will be there. The support will come. Mm-hmm. And if you are challenged, step back, redirect yourself, and move forward.
Yep. Amen. Well, I do appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the show, and glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Fascinating to understand kind of like, your journey, and hopefully those words do some good for our listeners out there.
Hopefully.
Cool?
Thanks for having me.
All right. Absolutely.
All right.